Arsenal 2, Liverpool 2, but for which of the two sides was that a better point for? I'm going to give you my thoughts on that at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that and let me know what you think in the comments below. Because I thought this was a really good game between two quality sides, but you could also tell that there was a lot of stake very early on to the season, only 9 games in, because I felt that there was also quite a little bit of a tense one as well. For Arsenal, obviously coming into it, there's a lot of injury talk about who was going to play, who wasn't going to play. In the end, replacing William Saliba at the back, it was Ben White moving from right back to centre back, and Thomas Partey moving to right back. They also, obviously, the big one, they did have Bukayo Saka starting in this game. That was the big one coming into it. Was he going to start? Was he not? And as soon as it was announced that he was on the team sheet, I think all Arsenal fans were so relieved. And for Liverpool, they decided to go with Curtis Jones in the midfield instead of Dominic Szoboszlai, and of course with Darwin Núñez setting up front in the place of injured Diogo Jota. And I think actually going into this game, with all the injuries and talk about injuries that Arsenal had, Liverpool were the ones who were going into this game, probably the favourites. But I think it was Arsenal who absolutely dominated that first half, and I think it was a game of two halves. And how did they do it? Well, Liverpool set up out of possession in the 4-2-4 formation we talked about in the last tactical breakdown against Chelsea. It was last week. And so what they did was, it was very simply 4-2-4 out of position. We're not going to let you play through the midfield and try and break us down if you can. And this worked really well against Chelsea for a large proportion of the game, because what they were trying to do, I'm not going to go through all of it. If you want to go check it out, you can check out, it's on the channel now. But what they tried to do is trying to block the midfield and try and go out to the wide men. But I think actually in this case, it didn't work out well, because what Mikel Arteta did was he watched the game against Chelsea and he realised, right, we need to try and draw out Gravenberch and McAllister from these midfield positions and try and move them out wide to create space. But what ended up happening was they ended up moving the midfield position out wide. But then what they didn't end up doing was they ended up marking the wide men of Arsenal. So let me explain here. So Martinelli was trying to be very one-on-one with Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he probably had a better second half than he did first half. And Bukayo Saka obviously ends up getting the goal in that first half, which we'll come on to. But Kai Havertz, and I don't really know what formation to really call this, what Mikel Arteta did, because Arsenal had 3 men on the ball, and obviously Thomas Partey filling in at right back, not having the most amount of pace on him against a player of the quality of Luis Diaz. Let him face the play, let him have the play in front of him, and let him see Luis Diaz running at him. Don't let him get on the wrong side of Luis Diaz, because if that happens, then he's actually got no chance. So I think Thomas Partey actually did alright there. But Jurgen Timber was moving up to this wide left position, try and draw Mohamed Salah out there, and Salah was doing that a little bit, if I'm being honest, but he was also being quite disciplined, staying in the middle. But it was Kai Havertz trying to pull away Alexis McAllister from this middle, and Trossard again trying to pull away Gravenberch to his blind side on the right. And this worked because it meant that Luis Diaz actually wasn't quite involved in the press, Alexis McAllister, and so both of them were kind of just like shadowing him and marking him, and then like, okay, we've got him there, it's comfortable, everything's okay. But what it did was it really isolated Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahim Konate, because they had absolutely no one to mark. And what formation do you even call this? Do you call this like a 3, a 2, a 2, and a 2? I don't really know, but Konate and Van Dijk had no one to mark, and so they were just like chilling. And I actually think this was intentional, because they actually weren't paying attention to what was going on around them too much, and maybe perhaps they were a little bit switched off. I was going to come on to this goal, but what it meant was Robertson and Saka and Martinelli and Trent, they were isolated 1v1 against a wide man, which was absolutely not the way that Liverpool wanted them to do. And if there's any of the Arsenal attackers you don't want one-on-one, it's the wide men, because they have the quality, they have a little bit more pace, which Trossard and Havertz don't have in the middle. And so therefore, that's where the first goal for Arsenal comes from. A lovely ball by Ben White over the top, and we're going to have to break it down, because this was a fantastic goal from the Arsenal perspective. And so this is a Ben White pass to Bukayo Saka, and this is what I really wanted to show you. It was Kai Havertz and Alexis McAllister down the middle right of your screen here, and you can't really see Bukayo Saka, but that's okay, because we're going to come on to him in just a moment. But that's where Kai Havertz was picking up the little pockets away from the middle of the pitch, where you expect him to be marking the centre backs, and he's trying to pull Alexis McAllister away so that Arsenal can try and build through the middle, through Rice and Marino, and Timber sometimes inverting in as well, with Trossard dropping in deep as well. So yeah, it was Arsenal, I think, in the early stages were really getting on the ball, quite comfortable actually, and breaking down Liverpool. And so, like I said, the whole point of Havertz's position here is to make sure that Saka can isolate Andy Robertson one-on-one, and I think that's exactly what he did, as you can see here. But we do have to talk about the defending of Liverpool, because even though that Saka gets himself into this position in a fantastic goal-scoring position, causing a lot of threat to the Liverpool back line, should he really be scoring from this position if you're a Liverpool fan? I have 2 problems here, and with 2 different players actually, and I just want to say that obviously Andy Robertson and Virgil van Dijk are world-class players. Maybe Robertson has been as good as, he has been the last couple of years, but, there have been periods of time where both these players have been world-class, and I've really ever played at the best at a Sunday League level. But if you're Andy Robertson here, Bukayo Saka is left-footed. You don't have the period of the game early on where you're trying to figure out what kind of foot as a fullback your winger is. You want to try and push him on the weaker foot. Just push him out wide, because Caoimhin Kelleher is a very good goalkeeper as well. He's got his space covered and doesn't seem to be much threat right here. So the biggest thing that could happen here from Liverpool's perspective is that Bukayo Saka cuts back inside and left foot and gets a shot away. And Andy Robertson, you cannot allow him to do that. You overcommit, and it's Bukayo Saka. It's one of the best right wingers in the league, in the world at this moment in time, maybe even top 3. And so you cannot let him come back on his left foot here, and I'd have a real issue with that. But my second problem here is with Virgil van Dijk, because, again, going into the game, everyone's talking about Bukayo Saka. Is he going to be fit? Is he not? He's so crucial for Arsenal and how important they are in trying to win a game of football. So when you see Arsenal's most dangerous player on the attack, running into space, you sprint back, you get back, and there is no one around Virgil van Dijk. So there's no reason for him to not be sprinting back full-toed to try and get back in a position where if Saka does manage to cut inside, then he is able to get there and get in the block or maybe intercepted. But I think it is two very poor pieces of defending. First, initially by Andy Robertson, it is his mistake, but I also think Virgil van Dijk can do better in this one as well. But I've talked about Liverpool fragilities at the back and two players I'm not too happy with. But we do also have to give credit to Bukayo Saka, because this is why you want him starting. This is why you need him fit, because he is a world-class right winger. And I've seen some people on socials talking about this as like the Bukayo Saka finish. I mean, I personally haven't really noticed it, but it is one where you expect him to put a bottom corner. He doesn't. He hits it into the roof of the net. And it is fantastic wing play. And you talk about difference makers in these big games, in big moments, and Saka is absolutely that. And, he started off his career as playing as a left winger for us, so maybe in right wing sometimes. Left wing back, and right wing back as well. And to the point now where he's one of the youngest goal scorers to ever hit 50 goals in the Premier League. And I think the company's got as well. I think one of them is Ronaldo. Some of them are they're all strikers, I think the rest of them. So it is, he is world class. He plays like he's the same age as Mohamed Salah, but he's not. He's still like 23, and that is absolutely mental. But he puts Arsenal 1-0 up, and at this point in the game, it's thoroughly deserved. And at this point, in my opinion, I think Arsenal are on top. They're the better team so far. But how do Liverpool get themselves back into the game? Is it through open plays, a bit of flair from Mohamed Salah? No, it's a set piece. Arsenal's supposed strength. And yeah, I think Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, Nicolas Jova, the set piece coach, will all be very disappointed in this, because I think it's intelligent play how Liverpool maneuver the goal, but I don't actually think it's anything special that the players on the pitch can't anticipate and react to as they're live in the game. So yeah, as this ball comes in, I think to myself, yeah, there's a bit of pushing and shoving, and it's classic for a corner, but I don't think the Arsenal are in too much threat here. But as it develops, I think, yeah, Arsenal will be very disappointed at how it unfolds. Because Luis Diaz, who was on David Raya and Ben White initially, ends up making a run to the front post. And as you can see here, he's doing his best salmon jump impression as a fish out of water. And he gets the ball ahead of Kai Havertz. I think it's a mixture of responsibility here. Martinelli is marking Luis Diaz. He should maybe get there ahead of him. But then also, it's Kai Havertz's space, and when you're marking zonally the front post, then you've got to dominate that area. But maybe he doesn't get a shout. I'm not quite sure who to... I think it is a mixture of both Martinelli and Havertz here. But yeah, I do think it's ball defending. But Virgil van Dijk at that back post, he's completely unmarked. You've got Thomas Partey just behind him, but they were wrestling just before the corner was taken. He's able to get a yard, and so that's what you need to do. You need to hope that one of your players gets a flick on initially, and then Virgil van Dijk is just in the right place at the right time. And I think, yeah, the movement by Diaz is well worked. It is clever. It is intelligent. But I do think there is an element of luck to this Liverpool goal as well. So, but if you're on a slot, you absolutely take it, and you end up 1-1 back into the game. But you go from a Liverpool attacking set piece where they get a goal to an Arsenal attacking set piece, and this is where Nicolas Jova is worth his weight in gold as a set piece coach. I mean, Arsenal the most goals from set pieces last season, and with another one again today. And I think it's really interesting how they set up, because it's all about the fine margins at set pieces. It's all about making sure you just about stay inside, making sure that you push your man at the right moment, making sure that you're not with your man at the start of the movement, but then you also get into position and they fill in the gaps. But I think it's really intelligent how Arsenal worked the set pieces. And actually, before this one, Mikel should have another one as well. And one of the things that makes it so hard from a defending team's perspective is you don't know where those Arsenal players are going to be filling in those gaps. You've got a pretty good idea from corners, they're going to be flooding in the back post, looking for Gabriel. But from set pieces, from free kicks in particular, you really don't know where they're going to be going, which man. So you've got the two Liverpool players here who, Salah and Luis Diaz marking the... Salah's in the wall, but it really isn't a wall. And Luis Diaz is marking a man off screen for a short corner. But they really aren't involved. You've also got the first two defenders of Liverpool not really involved as well. And so Arsenal are dominating that middle to back post area where they think the ball's going to go, and where Declan Rice, with his delivery, I think his delivery gets stepped on, because we talk about Bukayo Saka's delivery from corners, but Declan Rice's delivery from free kicks is absolutely phenomenal. I look at Rice, he's a 6'1" defensive midfield who can also play in centre midfield as well, and just think, get him in the box from set pieces. But no, he's going to take the set pieces because his delivery every time, just on the edge of that 6-yard line in a dangerous position where neither defenders can commit because they're scared of getting a touch and scoring an own goal, but also the goalkeeper can't commit because it's just not close enough for him. And I think Mikel should have had one earlier, like I said, but this one puts it in. And I think Virgil van Dijk playing everyone on, that's a risk. I mean, with VAR, it's such fine margins. If you get it right, you will get the goal. And Arsenal did, and they go into the halftime 2-1 up. And so from the Liverpool perspective, that was arguably one of the worst 45 minutes we've seen on Arne Slot so far, but obviously it's against a very quality Arsenal side. But he needed to change something, and I thought maybe it was going to be personnel-wise, because as we saw in the first game of the season, he took off João Kwanzaa and he brought in Ibrahim Konate against Ipswich. And in this one, I thought, Andy Robertson was getting cooked down the left-hand side by Saka. I mean, there's no shame because it is Bukayo Saka is, he's a world-class forward, like I've said. But maybe he needs to change something because, he's not quite there. Maybe it needs to be Luis Diaz because Virgil van Dijk is continuously playing this long ball over to Partey, who, as a makeshift right back, you probably don't want to be one-on-one against Diaz isolated on the ground, but in the air as a defensive midfielder, let him head the ball anyway. He was probably in dreamland against Luis Diaz. He never really got a good run on him. Curtis Jones as well. I mean, standing in that number 10 position, it's quite different to running onto it like he was against Chelsea. So maybe that wasn't quite right. So there were a couple of options, and he didn't actually change anything in terms of personnel. What he did do was he changed it tactically initially at halftime, and that was Darwin Núñez, because Darwin Núñez did a fantastic job against Chelsea last week, where he was continuously dropping in deep, putting in the hard yards, working off the ball really, really well. But in this one, he was continuously dropping deep to try and help out the midfield, and it wasn't really working because he was a bit of just a non-factor. Arsenal would, with Timber sometimes coming in, with Havertz would go back in there, maybe 4 or 5 in midfield. He was just really a non-factor. He wasn't really marking anyone. He was better off not in midfield, if I'm being honest. And that's what he did. Was second half, he comes out and he starts being the number 9 that Liverpool needed to be, putting him there, making the Arsenal defenders be honest and go, do you know what, maybe we can't go as forward as much as we would like. Darwin Núñez there, Mohamed Salah keeping high and wide, Jurgen Timber having to come back as well, as the Liverpool were getting on the ball a little bit more. But it ended up being the personnel which really changed the game. And from the Arsenal perspective, of course, losing Jurgen Timber, losing Gabriel, that's going to hurt you. Bring on Kivior and bring on Miles Lewis-Skelly as well. That back four of Arsenal, would I go as far to say I don't think that back four will ever play for Arsenal ever again? Maybe. Is Partey going to be right back? Probably not. Is Ben White going to be right centre back with Saliba? Probably not. You probably have Gabriel, Calafiori. They're probably ahead of Kivior and Miles Lewis-Skelly here. They're probably not going to play often again. So that back four is makeshift. And as you feel Liverpool, you have to capitalise. But for Liverpool personnel-wise, it is when Alexis McAllister went off, Curtis Jones did drop deep, and it was that man, Dominic Szoboszlai, who, for me, I think really did change this game for Liverpool, because while Liverpool did make other changes, Simicast, Robertson, Gakpo for Diaz, that changed the left-hand side dynamic. Szoboszlai's come under a lot of criticism so far this season for what does he do? He doesn't quite get the attacking returns, where the goals, where the assists. And people say, oh, but yeah, he works off the ball. And other people come back and say, yeah, well, that's not quite enough. But I think we saw in that game, that work off the ball, immediately getting his foot onto it, immediately pressing and getting involved, getting stuck in. That is something that is so crucial to Liverpool and how they play. And I think maybe could he have been rushed in midweek against RB Leipzig? Maybe as a former club, Arne Slot decided he wants to play him. But I think now, just that 45 and 15 minutes at the beginning of the second half where we didn't see Dominic Szoboszlai start go to show that in the big games, you have to be starting Dominic Szoboszlai. And I think that is a key takeaway from this game because he gets stuck in, he makes tackles, and then he immediately gets involved for the goal as well. And I think for me, Szoboszlai is arguably one of the more underrated players in Liverpool's side because of the fact he's not getting goals and assists. And I don't think we need to be measuring him by attacking returns just yet. I think that has to come eventually. But for now, in the early starts of the season, Szoboszlai is crucial for Liverpool and how they play. And I think he was the real turning point and making Liverpool dominant, keeping them retaining attacks, attacking it continuously. And for me, I think he is, arguably maybe more than Gravenberch and Newcastle, Liverpool's most important midfielder. Because he gets the ball off the back line and he's able to drive a little bit into that midfield. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, who you're about to see, who will come on screen, he knows that he can go up the field a little bit and be a little bit more aggressive because Liverpool are chasing the game at this moment, but also because he knows Dominic Szoboszlai isn't going to lose it. He plays a very simple pass. And the Arsenal back line, I do have to say, is a bit all over the place. Yeah, you can look at them and go, yeah, they got the 3 of the 4 defenders. You got Declan Rice as well. It's not too bad. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a very young defender. Miles Lewis-Skelly, you need to be getting back. It's Mohamed Salah. You need to be getting back. You can't just, pass him on to someone else. Kiwior does, a very good job. I think he's trying to be the more experienced player on the left-hand side and go, yeah, do you know what? I sense the danger of Mohamed Salah. I'm going to go over and help him out. But the ball by Trent Alexander-Arnold is world-class, over the top. And Salah, I actually think he's in offside position. So it's a good thing that Darwin Núñez gets the ball. But the Arsenal defenders, you need to be busting a gut. Miles Lewis-Skelly, young kid, he'll learn from it. You need to be busting a gut. It's not any old winger. It's Mohamed Salah. You need to be getting back. And yeah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who, if I'm being honest, I don't think he had the best of games. I thought he did actually have a bit of a stinker, but that's why you persist with him. That's why you keep him on the pitch, because you need him to produce moments of quality like this, because he can do something that no one else can, and that's find a man, give him time and space on the ball with runners with him. He's one of the best, arguably even the best, and he absolutely finds a pass for Darwin Núñez, and it's inch perfect. And I also think we have to give a lot of credit to Darwin Núñez, because are we expecting him here, maybe Darwin Núñez last season, to go on and shoot and maybe try and score himself from this position? But the fact that all 3 Arsenal defenders here, Ben White, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Jakub Kiwior, they're all looking at Núñez, and it's the danger man is Mohamed Salah. He is the one who's a cheat code. He is world class, and in this game I think Saka and Salah were the difference makers for both sides. They produce moments of quality which, I think, that's why they're worth the weight in gold. That's why you give Salah a new contract, because no one else can do what he can. His record in big games is phenomenal. I mean, was it joint 8th highest goal scorer in Premier League history? Still only 32. Yeah, just sign him up. And the game ends there 2-2, and I think maybe Arsenal could perhaps be angry about the referee blowing early for the Kai Havertz one where he kind of gets over Konate. For me, I think he blows it way too early. I don't think that's an issue for me. I think maybe Liverpool, they should have created more chances. I think Luis Diaz could have been a bit more unselfish when he was on the pitch. I think they didn't really test Adre as much as they would have liked. But I think 2-2 was probably a fair result. But I asked you a question right at the beginning. I said, for which team is this the better result? And going into the game, I thought that Liverpool were the favourites. I think with the momentum coming into the game, with the injury issues that also have no Saliba, potentially no Saka, there was no Martin Odegaard, I think one of the best players, that needed to capitalise on it. But as the game went on, I do think that Arsenal were potentially the more disappointed side. I think while being 2-1 up, they did let go of the handbrake a little bit. They did kind of sit back and go, we'll take it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you were to do it, you need to come out and it needs to work. And it didn't quite work in this one. And so I think going into the game, Arsenal would have taken the draw. Coming out of it, I think Arsenal will be more disappointed and Liverpool would have taken the draw. I do think Liverpool were poor in that first half. And I do think it's down to Arsenal making them be poor rather than Liverpool not turning up. I think they did turn up. They were up for it. It didn't quite work out. I think in this one, as if Liverpool, you just got to go, wait, Arsenal. Yeah, all talk about injuries and whatever, but how the game unfolded, let's take a draw. And for Arsenal, losing Gabriel, losing Timber, I think you have to say, we'll absolutely take that. It could have been worse with the makeshift defense we ended up having. We could have ended up losing that game by much more. But yeah, as we go into the season, I'd still think both sides are title contenders. I don't think either of them are pretenders. I think they are going to be up there. I don't think it's the end of the world draw. I think probably the true winners of that are Man City as they go top of the table. But I think there's so much longer to go in the season. Man City will eventually lose a game, but so will these sides. But can they make sure that they're close enough to Man City to keep up? That's a true question. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.